Coming up, the scammers who send a courier to collect your credit card and then clear out your account. That's next.
Now the latest ITV News Central with Bob Woolman and Samina Ali Khan.
Welcome to ITV News Central. David Cameron gets stuck into science in Birmingham, but is an election victory in the bag?
The scammers who send a courier to collect your credit card and then clear out your account.
Robot wars, germ zapping robots could be coming to a hospital near you.
And hats off to the ladies stealing the show at Cheltenham.
Good evening. The Prime Minister has been in Birmingham to launch his plans to encourage more top maths and physics students into teaching.
Under the proposals, A-level students who are prepared to commit to becoming a teacher in those subjects for at least 3 years are to be offered £15,000 to cover their university costs.
David Cameron chose to reveal the recruitment drive this afternoon at the Big Bang, a science and engineers fair for young people. The visit followed a boisterous Prime Minister's questions at Westminster, where Mr Cameron once again defended his position on the leaders' TV debates. Well, the Prime Minister joins us now. Prime Minister, what sort of response did you get from those young people today?
Well, they were very enthusiastic about what they were doing, which is this Big Bang Fair to encourage young people to understand what science and maths and technology can mean in life as well as in the classroom. And the aim is to encourage more to study it. And if we think of how many jobs are going to be created in those industries that require those skills, this is really important for our country. So a lot of enthusiasm there, and the extra maths and science teachers we're announcing today and putting the money in for today will mean that we'll produce students with the right skills in the future.
Well, speaking of young people, last night on ITV News Central, we had a special debate where we had students and first-time voters taking part in a special debate, and they were talking about the election matters that they're concerned about, and they also spoke about why so few of their age group actually vote. Now, we're just going to play you a little clip. This should give you an idea of what they had to say.
There's lack of knowledge about politics. A lot of people our age don't really know much about it. They can convince you, oh, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you, but we don't know whether they're going to do that or not, because they've made plenty of promises before, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to take place.
We all talk about immigration, we all talk about it NHS, however, they all talk about it, but nothing has been done. So I think voting is just kind of pointless way.
An increased focus on education in schools in politics, because without that you're not creating like a knowledgeable electorate.
We see loads of old age pensioners, they get so many benefits and so many different things, such as like the winter fuel allowance, free bus passes, I think we'd all kill for a free bus pass.
So, Mr Cameron, obviously, lack of knowledge they were worried about, the fact that things aren't done, and also OAPs getting benefits like things like the bus pass that he mentioned. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's very good comments, and ones we need to live up to and make sure we enthuse young people about what politics and voting can achieve. I mean, I would say this government has focused on the things that matter most to young people, which is investing in apprenticeships. Over 250,000 started here in the West Midlands. Jobs, 127,000 more people in work here than when I became Prime Minister. And also making sure that we uncap the number of university places, so whoever wants to go and has the qualifications can go. Those are the key things. I don't think actually the young people I find believe that we are over generous to the elderly in our country. I think most young people want to know that their grandparents are going to be properly looked after in their old age.
I think a lot of them felt that they would like to have the same sort of benefits, because a lot of them do use public transport, but equally the university fees.
Well, the greatest benefit we can give to young people is to create jobs and an economy that will give them a chance to make the most of their talents. Now, university fees is a difficult subject, but I'm very frank about it. We need well-funded universities so that our young people can compete with the brightest and the best in the world, and they can, because we've taken the long-term difficult decisions. And the interesting thing is that the number of young people applying to university, people said would go down, it hasn't, it's gone up, and the number of people applying from poorer backgrounds has also gone up. So the policy is working, and young people are getting those jobs. The youth claimant count, long-term youth unemployment, is now at the lowest it's been since the 1970s.
OK, let's turn to another group then. Let's talk about women, because in the last election 9 million didn't vote. Now we're just going to show you a clip here. This is you and Ed Miliband at PMQ this afternoon, and this is what you were saying.
I will tell him what goes to character. Someone who is prepared to crawl into Downing Street in alliance with people who want to break up the future of our country. What a despicable and weak thing to do. Risking our defences, risking our country, risking our United Kingdom. If he had an ounce of courage, he'd rule it out.
There's only one person who's a risk to the integrity of the United Kingdom, and it's this useless Prime Minister.
You see, now when I speak to young women, in fact women of all ages, they say they don't vote, they don't get engaged because you're doing things like that, which is squabbling like children.
Well, emotions run high when we get close to the election, but there is a serious point that I'm making there, which is the Scottish National Party want to break up our country. They don't believe in the United Kingdom. They want to dismember it. And yet, from everything we see, it looks like Labour is preparing to do a deal with them. They won't rule it out. I'd certainly rule it out. And so I think it is a reasonable point that I'm making. But I accept Prime Minister's questions can get rowdy and noisy. There's a lot of noise in the chamber. You sometimes can't hear yourself, let alone anyone else hear you.
Yes.
But it's only a reflection of part of what Parliament does, not all of
Yes,
what
but they
Parliament
don't
does.
get the answers then, or they're not hearing the policy details, which is things they're interested in, because they feel that you're just talking at each other and mudslinging.
Well, I think we do provide, there are lots of ways, including coming on this programme, where we can talk about the policy detail, about the apprenticeships, about how to get people into teaching, how we're dealing with issues in the National Health Service, the differences between the parties on the economy and how we pay down our debts. There are plenty of opportunities for that. I accept, though, Prime Minister's questions can be noisy and rowdy. It's an expression, in a way, of the rowdiness of our democracy. The fact that Prime Minister goes along, can be asked any question under the sun. You know, it's good in a way that we don't pull our punches, but I accept it's not perhaps the best of examples of everything Parliament does.
Well, here you are in the Midlands, and it's a key battleground for you in this coming election. You've got to win the Midlands to get the keys once again to number 10. Now, manufacturing is up, unemployment is down, there are plenty of jobs around, but there seems to be a missing ingredient. Otherwise, you'd be way ahead in the polls.
Well, I think the missing ingredient is that people can read about the recovery, they can see that jobs are coming, they look at things like Jaguar Land Rover, and we can be very proud in the Midlands of this great export and manufacturing success, but people want to know that this long-term plan is going to be a plan for them, for their jobs, for cutting their taxes, for helping them own homes that they can afford, for good school places for their children. And I accept I've got a big task to do in the next 56 days of explaining this is going to come right for people in the West Midlands who've worked hard and deserve a good deal.
David Cameron, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you. In other news, a woman from Stratford-upon-Avon who was conned out of more than £1,000 in an elaborate credit card scam has spoken about what happened.
She was caught out by Courier crime. It's when fraudsters, claiming to be the police, cold call victims pretending to be investigating card cloning. They then trick you into handing your cards and PIN details to a courier on your doorstep. Nancy Cole has the story.
It's a scam that targets the elderly and vulnerable. Fraudsters posing as police investigating card fraud. A ruse that caught out this woman from Stratford-upon-Avon who wants to remain anonymous.
I had a phone call from a police officer and he gave me his badge number, and he just arrested 2 European people who were skimming my cards. And then he said, take the number off the back of your cards and phone your bank. So I did.
Unbeknown to her, the scammers kept the phone line open, so when she thought she was speaking to her bank, she was actually passing on her PIN details to a member of the gang.
That's what makes you think it's genuine, because you've made that phone call. You know, I phoned my bank on the same number that's at the back of the card, and I got back to the fraudsters.
It's called Courier crime because the con men arrange for the cards to be collected from your home as evidence, when in fact they then head to the nearest cash point. In the past year, a total of 205 offences have been reported. In the majority of instances, people realised it was a scam. 25 victims, though, were caught out and conned out of more than £27,000. As part of an action day, officers from Warwickshire and West Mercia Police have been giving advice on how to act on signs of fraud.
Call us and we will then deal with that. It could be a vital piece of intelligence that we're going to add to the picture, which would help. So I wouldn't say ignore it, call us, and we would deal with it in the right way. And remember, we would never ever call you and ask for your PIN number or your cards, nor would the bank. We wouldn't ask for those to be put in an envelope and for them to be collected. So it's the number one rule.
How did it make you feel when you realised you'd been caught out in this way?
I was horrified. A week later, I got a card identifying the very same scam. I thought if I'd had that a week before, I wouldn't have gone for it.
She hopes by speaking out to save others a similar ordeal. Nancy Cole, ITV News, Stratford-upon-Avon.
Some news in brief now. The vet investigating the alleged poisoning of a Crufts show dog, which its owners claims was poisoned, says it's unlikely to have happened during the competition. Jagger died on Saturday after apparently being fed chunks of poisonous steak. That's according to its co-owners from Leicester. The results of the toxicology tests are expected next week.
Birmingham City Council has revealed plans for a complete overhaul of the city's rag market. The £500 million development will include 1,000 new homes and deliver more than 100,000 square metres of retail space. Traders in the rag market say they're delighted with the plans, which they say will put the rag market at the centre of the city again.
Markets have been on this site for 800 years, so it's got a great heritage to the city, and normally the markets are part of the city and the heart of the city, and so I think the council are looking at putting it back in and having this is the central bit of the markets.
A £34 million Wedgwood ceramics visitor attraction in Staffordshire will open in May. The redeveloped World of Wedgwood site in Barlaston is hoping to attract 175,000 visitors every year, as well as creating 100 new jobs and producing half of all the company's ceramics, which are sold around the world. There'll be factory tours, including opportunities to see pottery artists at work.
Robots have been put to work on the wards of a hospital to wipe out infections like MRSA. They use UVC light, which is 25,000 times brighter than the sun, to zap germs and stop them spreading.
Claire McGlasson has been to see the trial project in action, a warning that her report does contain flashing images.
On the front line in the battle against hospital infection, bleach and good old-fashioned elbow grease. But what about the places detergents just can't reach? It doesn't look much, but this trolley has the technology, using UV light to zap infections like C. difficile, MRSA and norovirus.
We do the best job we can, but there'll always be microscopic traces left, and that's when we bring in the robot.
Well, the robot is ready, but light intense enough to kill germs can also be dangerous to people, so at this point everybody has to leave the room. It's safe for our cameras to stay inside as the robot goes to work, emitting UVC light. The rays damage the genetic code of the germs, which stops them multiplying, killing 10 to 40% more germs than cleaning alone.
The biggest threat we face now is antibiotic-resistant bacteria. The government has cited this as a bigger threat than terrorism. Well, this is trying to give us more assurance that the room that the next patient is going to go into is as safe as we can get it.
Already installed in hundreds of hospitals in the United States, success here could mean the green light for robots on wards right across the UK.
Claire McGlasson reporting. You're watching ITV News Central. Still to come on the programme tonight, the youngster up for a Royal Award after turning his life around.
How to play your part in boosting bee numbers.
And join me for your Midlands weather forecast. It's all about the clouds over the next few days and a bit of rain too. The details coming up.
Now this week we have a series of special reports from Cyprus where British Army regular and reserve soldiers are working together as an example of how they will operate in the future.
After years of violence and ethnic cleansing, the island is split in two, with Turkish Cypriots in the north and Greek Cypriots in the south. British troops form part of a United Nations peacekeeping mission to keep the two sides from fighting.
Our correspondent David Wood has been given unprecedented access to the demilitarised zone between the two warring factions, the so-called Green Line.
This battle-weary house stands not in the middle of a war zone, but is one of hundreds of derelict properties in a line that dissects the Mediterranean island of Cyprus. Inside what is called the buffer zone, a reminder of the continuing bitterness between Cypriot Turks in the north and Cypriot Greeks in the south. Keeping both sides apart are troops from the British Army.
Anything up there, mate?
On a tour called Optosca, their mission is to keep the peace until a unifying diplomatic solution can be found.
Strategically, it's very important for Cyprus and also for UK PLC. This is the largest contribution to the UN worldwide. In terms of Cyprus itself, then we are here to maintain the status quo, to allow political settlement, and our actions on here have a strategic effect from the very youngest soldier on the ground right up to the highest levels.
The division on the island goes back centuries. In the 1960s, the United Nations became involved. But in 1974, tensions rose and the Turks invaded from the north. After that, the UN enforced a line right across Cyprus, separating the warring factions. For reservist Rachel Knight, it's her first tour. She's swapping student life in Birmingham, where she's training to be a physiotherapist.
Joining the army as an officer is something I'm considering later on, so I just sort of wanted to get a feel for what it'd be like to go on tour and be with the army full time, so that when it came to that decision of joining the army full time, I had a better sort of idea of what to expect.
And you're on tour, coming to an end soon. What do you make of it?
I've really enjoyed it. It's definitely been different to what I expected, but on the whole, I've definitely really enjoyed it.
People had to leave here so quickly they left washing up in the sinks. Signs of an abandoned family life are everywhere. Those who ran businesses were forced to leave their valuable stock in shops and showrooms as the invaders marched on Nicosia. It is a place that time has forgotten. And take this car as an example. Believe it or not, it is actually brand new. And if we take a look inside, the car's only done 32 miles. And look, there's still the wrapping on the inside of the door. And what surprises me the most is it still smells pretty much like a new car. Since the UK government decided to reduce the size of the regular army, more reliance is being placed on reserve soldiers to help man operations. Here, the regular and reserve soldier work together. But according to one of the most senior generals, attracting new part-time soldiers is a challenge.
I think what's been a struggle is getting in place our framework for delivering the growth of the reserves. And I visit, units, and I see that people have only just got the right staff officer in place, just got the right, framework in place. Actually, when you get that in place, the numbers grow really, really quickly. So I'm really pleased that the numbers are growing at the sort of rate we want them to grow.
There is little sign of political resolution to the problems on Cyprus, but without the UN mission keeping the two sides apart, life here could be a lot more confrontational. David Wood, ITV News, Nicosia.
And we'll have more from David Wood in Cyprus tomorrow. Now, the national and international news is a few moments away. Let's take a look at what's coming up in the company of Alistair Stewart.
BBC under pressure over Clarkson. A petition in his support tops 300,000.
No.
The presenter involved in a fracas with a producer makes light of it. An investigation continues. Paul Gascoigne says phone hacking helped make him an alcoholic. He's furious the Mirror didn't take him on in court. And pictures at an exhibition, but not with a selfie stick, says the National Gallery. Join Charlene White and me at 6:30.
An 18-year-old man from Birmingham who experienced a violent childhood and got into trouble with the police is in the running for a Royal Award after transforming his life. Joel Fields now works full-time in a supermarket thanks to a programme run by the Prince's Trust.
Tomorrow he'll attend a star-studded ceremony in London where he's up for the charity's Young Achiever of the Year award. James Clark reports.
Yeah, we like to have a party, you know it is.
It's a statement you wouldn't be surprised to hear from an 18-year-old. And tomorrow night, Joel Fields will be attending the biggest party of his life. Joel's one of 4 finalists who's up for the Prince's Trust Young Achiever of the Year award, which recognises those who've struggled during childhood to go on to transform their lives.
I've actually been brought up in care from the age of 6 and I was brought up in care from the age of 6 and I lived in lots of different places and life was a bit of a struggle. Yeah, I did.
Joel, who's from Birmingham, experienced a violent upbringing and found himself in trouble with the police. Now aged 18, he works full-time at a supermarket.
And I feel like being accepted onto this programme is giving me the opportunity to take control of my life. And without that, I don't know where I would be today.
It is absolutely amazing where Joel sort of come from, and actually to be one of 4 people is just brilliant. So very excited for him.
Honestly, when I actually found out I was going to be nominated for the regional award, it was like validation of my achievements. So I already felt like I had won.
And there's one person in particular who he's looking forward to meeting.
Simon Cowell. Absolutely, I cannot wait. You know, I've actually applied for X Factor once and I never got through, so I'm going to let him know.
So Joel's confident he's got the X Factor. Let's hope he gets a yes from the judges tomorrow night. James Clark, ITV News.
Good luck to Joel.
Yes, indeed.
And good luck to Simon Cowell if he needs it. Researchers are calling on the public to help study why the number of bees is falling. They play a vital role in our countryside, pollinating fruit and vegetables, but many native species are declining rapidly. Well, now it's hoped that citizen science will provide more clues about why the insects are under threat. Malcolm Shaw has been to find out more.
A beautiful spring morning and Kate Arms is heading for her greenhouse. Kate is taking part in a project to find out why the number of bees is declining. She'll be growing broad beans and radishes, pollinating some by hand and leaving others to the bees to see which do best.
I've read a lot about the problems with the bee population, and I think a lot of people are more concerned about where their food's coming from now. So it seemed an opportunity to perhaps contribute to the wider knowledge about bees. I'm not a scientist, but in a small way, maybe I'm helping.
PhD student Linda Birkin is coordinating the study. She says the citizen science project will give a much broader picture of how bees are doing than researchers could otherwise obtain.
For doing a UK level study, it's imperative pretty much to be able to use the public, because there aren't that, there's not that many people working on bees, that many scientists working on bees that be able to do this, and certainly not on that geographical scale.
Bees play an essential role in the environment, pollinating many of the fruits and vegetables on which we depend. But many of our native bee species are struggling, some already extinct.
We've gradually lost flowers from the countryside. Intensive farmland doesn't really have much in the way of flowers, so there's no food for bees in the modern world. And then on top of that, they're exposed to lots of pesticides these days, and there's a big controversy about how big a role that's playing in contributing to their declines. And then on top of that, we've rather foolishly introduced lots of bee parasites from other countries as we've moved bees around.
550 volunteers like Kate are taking part in the project, along with 30 schools. It's hoped the data they collect will give a clearer picture of why bees are struggling and what we can do to help them. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News.
Now, it's day 2 of the region's biggest racing festival, and following a record opening day, tens of thousands of people have again flocked to Cheltenham Racecourse.
Everybody except us. Eh? Next year, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, joining them on Ladies' Day was the Duchess of Cornwall, who presented the winner's trophy for the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Ken Goodwin was there, lucky man.
They come in all shapes and sizes and all the colours of the rainbow. Ladies' Day means strutting your stuff and showing off your hats.
Go a little bit wild, not too big perhaps, but get the feathers out, get the felt out, and just have a fabulous riot of colour.
I think the Scrabble was, the designer is a little bit crazy. I met her once and she just gave it to me to wear for the day, for the races back in December. And the dare, to be honest, I got it for the colour rather than what it said, but it also suits my personality as well.
My husband said, have I got to have a picture taken with a lemon?
It's been a busy time for hat makers. Just a couple of miles away, in a converted garage, is the British School of Millinery. Women order their hats months in advance, but last-minute customers are still dropping in.
And and Denise always manages to pull one out of the bag, so she did this one for me. I'm pleased with it, really pleased with it.
It's all splashes of colour, so we need flowers, things like this, handmade silk roses, lots and lots of colour, but via flowers and via the wonderful splash prints that they've got going on this year.
This milliner comes from Ireland and wears her own hats.
For me, I think the hat finishes the outfit, and in most cases can make the outfit. So I think it's really important to kind of put the thought into it and choose your colours wisely, choose the style wisely, and it can make you feel better, walk taller, look better.
They are here to watch the races, but on Ladies' Day, the eyes are also on the outfits.
It's great fun, isn't it? Lovely. Now, the weather is coming up in just a moment, but first we've got time to tell you that a loyal Labrador who saved his owner's life.
Yes, when Joanna Meller from Derbyshire had a heart attack in the middle of the night, it was her dog Leo who woke her boyfriend Andrew and alerted him.
Yes, Andrew then managed to call a 999 operator, and they advised him how to give Joanna CPR.
It's still not really sunk in actually what has happened to me, and if it hadn't been for Leo waking Andrew up, and if it hadn't been for Andrew giving me CPR and everybody else, then I possibly wouldn't be here today.
That's great. I mean, when I first read it, I thought it was Leo that gave us CPR, but it wasn't.
No. Andrew made the call.
Yeah.
Leo did the alerting.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, good team.
Right, let's have a look at the weather forecast now. Here's Lucy.
What's in store for today? ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
Hello again. Well, we've found some more daffodils, this time in Warstock. Thank you very much to Des Gardner for that one. Central Weather at itv.com is the address if you spot any daffodils in bloom. So then, we've got some rain on the way as we head through the next couple of days. Already we're seeing a band of rain make its way in an easterly direction. That will clear through this evening. And then tomorrow night, more rain will head our way, and that will hang around for Friday morning before clearing away to leave us with a dry weekend. So then, as for tonight, well, it's going to end up dry everywhere. Patchy cloud, especially in parts of Staffordshire. That's where we'll have the lowest temperatures. A touch of ground frost possible here. It will be frost-free elsewhere. The wind will ease through tonight as well, and it's going to be fairly mild, with temperatures generally holding up above freezing. So tomorrow morning, a few mist patches to contend with first thing. The sunshine will really try and break through the cloud, but on the whole, it's going to be a grey, cloudy day. Temperatures not bad though, rising to 11 degrees Celsius. See you later on.
ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
Finally, a quick look at tonight's top stories before we go. David Cameron visited Birmingham today, where he pledged £15,000 to top physics and maths students who go into teaching. Speaking live on ITV Central, he said we should be proud of the Midlands manufacturing and employment success, but admitted he'll need to work hard during the campaign to show how this relates to people's everyday lives.
A woman from Stratford is warning others about courier crime. It's when fraudsters claiming to be the police cold call victims pretending to be an investigating card cloning team. They then trick them into handing over cards and pin details to a courier who arrives on the doorstep.
And the vet investigating the alleged poisoning of the Crufts show dog says it's unlikely to have happened during the competition.
And that's all from the team this evening. The national and international news is on next. We're back with the late bulletin at 10:30. But for now, from the team, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Hillsborough lie a police officer will regret to his dying day. David Duckenfield said the fans pushed the gate open. He admits he gave the order. He apologises unreservedly.
Also tonight, nearly 500,000 petition for Clarkson's reinstatement amid claims he may quit the BBC.
Miliband and Cameron exchange brutal barbs over pre-election TV debates.
If he's so confident, why is he chickening out of the debates with me?
He wants to talk about the future of a television programme. I want to talk about the future of the country.
And the fine art of the selfie stick, banned by the National Gallery.
This is ITV News at 6:30 with Alistair Stewart and Charlene White.
Good evening. It was a decision calmly made in the midst of mayhem. It was followed by a lie that would haunt David Duckenfield, he said, to his dying day. He ordered the exit gate at Hillsborough open, which led to the deaths of 96 fans. Within days he lied, blaming the fans, and stuck to that until today.
The former Chief Superintendent apologised unreservedly to a hushed inquest hearing. Relatives of those who died were there to hear him add his deep regret at causing so much distress to them. From Warrington, Damon Green reports.